Oh my God. The Hornets, they got the win over the Lakers. They did it. 197 last night. If you stayed up late, then you were in for a treat. The Mark Williams revenge game. Can we say that happened? Mark Williams making his return after the snip, snap of it all. LaMelo Ball, clutch, winning player, clearly got to show that on a national stage last night. We'll talk about the Hornets win all today on Locked On Hornets.
You are Locked On Hornets, your daily Charlotte Hornets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast. That does include YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can see that I'm solo. No Doug Branson anywhere to be found. He's not feeling very well today. Now, we will find out where his priorities lie if he does host Locked On NBA, especially after a Hornets win, man. Like a national stage type of game where everybody is watching Mark Williams. My God, I saw all sorts of NBA national accounts tweeting about this game last night. It took the Lakers for people to be interested on a national scale in the Hornets, but I'm glad they delivered. So if Doug does the national show, but doesn't do the homegrown show, the grassroots Hornets podcast show, then we're going to realize where his priorities are. But you should still read his Hornets Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. He's also writing the newsletter, The New. We've established this. It's very important that we have that distinction. It is still a new Locked On Hornets newsletter, your daily newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage, delivered right to your inbox. You can sign up for free right now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com. Start your day with the all-new free Locked On Hornets newsletter. By the way, the episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel means that right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. So I'm going solo today. I'm Walker Mail. You can listen to me on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Whew, buddy, what a game last night. And I mean that in the worst way if we're just talking about the first half, and I mean that in the best way if we're just talking about the second half. I didn't know where to start. Like, we start with Mark Williams all the time. Man, I think y'all just need a break. Maybe I'm just putting that on everyone because I kind of need a break from the Mark Williams stuff. It's such a big storyline. We're going to get to more Mark stuff. But it's just been a while since we talked basketball. Like, I joked the other day, it was the first time that I was looking up stats in like 2 weeks, which seems like an eternity when you host a daily basketball podcast and you talk about the Hornets on a radio show for 3 hours a day too. So why am I not going to Basketball Reference? Why am I not going to my advanced metric stats? It's because the games haven't mattered as much as the storyline surrounding Mark. So I want to talk about the game today, at least to lead off the show. I want to talk about a winning basketball game because I don't know how many more the Hornets are going to get. We've talked about it. The tank embraced us, as Doug put it. We got the tank tracks over our face. You could see it. It's plain as day. So let's just embrace a victory. And where I want to start is just by breaking down the last 3 minutes of this game. And this is where we can focus on the star, LaMelo Ball, L.A. LaMelo Ball, the emphasis in the L.A. today. Everything surrounded him as to why the Hornets were successful in the final 3 minutes of this one, man. Goodness gracious. So if you start like really at the 2:53 mark, that offensive possession, LaMelo was just breaking his guy down. Luka Doncic trying to hang with him. That's not going to happen. So LaMelo sees food, attacks Luka out there on the perimeter, and then dishes it to Mark, who comes up with a big bucket, got fouled, didn't get the call, asked for it. LeBron James, I think, is the guy that fouled him. Jackson Hayes goes up with LaMelo on the drive, and that's when LaMelo has the presence of mind, like he always does, to do the slip pass. And now we're off and rolling, baby. Like, now we got some exciting basketball ahead of us. So it all starts with LaMelo there, creating for others. We know how great he is at that. He's special. So it all starts there. And then I'm not sure like the exact sequence of all these plays, but I believe it's the next play where LaMelo has the basketball in his hands. JJ Redick sends the double team at him. They want the basketball out of LaMelo's hands. So LaMelo makes the right play, just swings it around to Miles Bridges at the top of the key. Miles feels like it's his time to shine, and it was his time to shine last night. He was excellent, especially in the second half. And then Miles pops a three in the Lakers' face. Like now, despite LeBron and company having put forth a really good effort in the fourth quarter, especially with LeBron and LaMelo trading shots, that was excellent stuff. But Miles was huge in this game and shot really well from deep. In fact, it was him really doing most of his damage from the three-point line. Hit a crucial one late in this game. So Lakers, they get a bucket. They put Mark Williams in the pick and roll a little bit. I thought Mark at times won defensively, contesting some of those outside shots. There was a time that he lost where Jackson Hayes rolled. There was an easy slip pass to Jackson from LeBron. Mark just didn't get over in time. Tijon didn't really want to leave Luka in the corner, and so he kind of got caught in no man's land anyway. Jackson Hayes comes up with the dunk. So now we've seen two plays with LaMelo where he either facilitates to Mark Williams or he just makes the mature, smart play. Hey, there's a double team coming at me. Let's just swing it to the guy that's got us in this game right now in Miles Bridges. Miles pops it. So now what do we do? Well, now we're at a point where, okay, Nick Smith Jr. hits a monster three, clutch for the youngin', awesome stuff. But then LaMelo, it's time for him to just take responsibility. And then we look at this last play from him, right? Because he hits a couple of free throws at the end. But that play where he's breaking Jared Vanderbilt down off of the dribble. What's so magical about that play to me is he's breaking his guy down. He dribbles to the right side. But where he picks that basketball up so he doesn't turn it over in traffic, which he was great at that. There was the viral picture of him getting bear hugged by both Luka and LeBron. And the phrase was, the caption, LaMelo still scored out of this. Just ridiculous play that was in the first half. Not similar to the bear hug that he experienced in the first half, but LaMelo picks that basketball up as soon as it leaves the ground. So it's so low, like his arms are fully extended, picking that basketball up, going through traffic, and then just rises above everybody, floats it above Vanderbilt, and shot goes in. Hornets get the lead. Incredible stuff. LaMelo's fingerprints were all over this victory, and it's just been a while since we've had a victory to celebrate. I guess that's not entirely true because we saw a win against the Spurs, but then we had such a downswing with all the Mark Williams stuff. I just wanted to talk about the victory. I just wanted to talk about the final 3 minutes of winning time. And what was great about this, because we know how national media feels about LaMelo, especially when it comes to putting him in the All-Star game. If you got a vote, then most likely you finished above LaMelo in the All-Star voting among media members, right? Fan voting, we know LaMelo won amongst Eastern Conference guards. But media, they put all of the guards that realistically could get into the All-Star game ahead of LaMelo, and then LaMelo was 7th, and then everybody else was tied below him for 0 votes. So what's great is because the narrative of him, like it's that he's not a winning player, the fact that he comes up clutch, and it's not just the shot. That's what I want people to recognize here. It's not just the shot as to why LaMelo was a winning player last night. He made smart plays. He didn't turn it over. The Lakers clearly viewed him as the biggest threat, as they should, and everybody ate off of it. Like you can see LaMelo's impact on this Hornets basketball team, and I just love that it led to a win in LA for a little Hornets revenge and perhaps a little Mark Williams revenge. Let's talk about that more. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast, I want to talk more about Mark Williams' impact on this game. He had an interview with Rod Boone in the Charlotte Observer. We'll get to that. Plus, I want to talk about Nurk with 7 dimes, 0 points, 8 rebounds, the center rotation. No Musa last night. Does he play tonight, though, because it's the second night of a back-to-back, and possibly Charles Lee was just resting him a bit. We'll get to all of that coming up next, LOH. Before we talk more about this game, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is so easy to use When you win, you get paid instantly. That's a nice perk. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. More Locked On Hornets coming up. How big of a way was he back playing this game against the Los Angeles Lakers? Again, the very team that traded for him and then rescinded the trade because they said that they found some problems with his physical. They could tell you enough. They could tell you that it wasn't his back, but they couldn't tell you what the actual medical issues were. HIPAA, okay, fine. It's not like we don't know these players' injuries anyway, but fine, okay. We don't know the issues. They rescinded it. Mark Williams finally returns to the Hornets. His first game is against the Lakers, as he called it in that sit-down interview with Rod Boone. The NBA script, couldn't script it up any better, right? So let's talk about Mark's impact. He was 3 of 7 from the field. He scored 10 points. He was 4 of 4 from the free throw line. He had 9 rebounds, just 1 rebound shy of a double-double against the Lakers. Had a couple of assists, only 1 turnover, had 3 personal fouls. He played 29 minutes, by the way. That's what the box score looks like for Mark. I thought Mark was, solid. I don't think he was terrible, which we should have higher expectations for Mark. I get it. But I go back to what Doug said yesterday, where he said he doesn't want a decent game. He wants Mark to come out and just be a monster. He wasn't a monster. No doubt about that. I don't know if I was going to be as hesitant to celebrate what was a decent game from Mark as what Doug was, which is fine. I'll be the coddler if you want me to. But I thought Mark Williams in this one, compared to the last game that he played with the Hornets against Milwaukee, and then he was traded an hour and a half later, I thought that there was a similar feel to it, where it's like they weren't attacking Mark down low. It's not like they had this big physical center presence. It's why the Lakers wanted to trade for Mark in the first place. So it's not like he got beat up by a Vucevic, by a Daniel Gafford, Anthony Davis. You get the idea. There was no beating up of Mark. What was happening here was the Lakers were spreading the defense out. Mark found himself on the perimeter constantly. I mean, there were plenty of times that Mark found himself on LeBron James, even found himself on Luka Doncic a couple of times. Guys, I thought Mark played pretty well out there on the perimeter. I do. I think against Milwaukee, what was so frustrating is that, okay, it's not like you got dominated in the paint, but man, get out and contest shooters. I mean, it's Brook Lopez. If you're worried about Brook Lopez driving by you, then you are cooked. And I might be able to understand why your physical was failed in the immediate, not even for the long term. You got to contest on a Brook. We saw Mark contest shots last night, and I think even make a difference. Mark, just a big body. We know about the standing reach. I thought Mark contested Luka a couple times where it bothered him. He contested LeBron James. I don't know how much it bothered LeBron, but I do know that it was a good enough contest, right? What you could realistically ask for from Mark on an island with LeBron, I'm going to want to give him just a little bit of space so I can react well enough. But I obviously also want to contest. And he did. He put a hand in LeBron's face and he missed a couple 3-pointers because of it. There were times where he got beat off the dribble. There was the time where LeBron beat Mark off of the dribble and then Mark picked up the foul. They looked at it for a flagrant. It wasn't. The refs made the right call on that one. LeBron missed the layup. But there were times where he struggled a little bit. I don't know if I saw Mark really go after a rebound like an animal. He came up with some big ones. There was the big free throw miss after the Lakers missed 2 free throws in a row. Mark Williams corralled that rebound. That seemed physical, right? Going after it, but he had position. Didn't really fight through blockouts on the other side, tried to hold his ground. Maybe he got pushed out a few times, but I thought Mark showed you enough on the perimeter to where he wasn't a liability defensively. And he had been, by the way, the 3 weeks before he got traded. Yeah, we know this well. I thought he had been a liability. I thought he got called for some ticky-tack fouls and in return did not receive any fouls himself. Only the 4 free throw attempts. I thought he could have had 2 more trips to the line on the and one opportunity. And there was another foul that he did not get after a missed shot. I think offensively, if you look at what Mark did, there were a couple times where he shot it over his left shoulder immediately. Just as soon as he caught it, I don't know, 10 feet away from the basket. One, you probably don't love him posting up that far away from the basket anyway, unless there's a face-up game, and we just haven't seen Mark give you much of a face-up game. So if you're going to be that far away from the basket, I don't know if I want you immediately catching it and then turning over your left shoulder and then throwing up a hook shot. Like I think he feels comfortable taking it, which is why he did. He makes them. We're probably not talking about this. But when you have a mouse in the house, you got Luka on you, who's a strong post defender, right? Like this is what some of these bigger guards that are liabilities on the perimeter can do. Like they can get up under the big guy's hip and then just stop all momentum. And it's really hard for these big guys to get momentum. And so, okay, like I get why Mark didn't feel like he can move Luka at times, but even still, that's a mismatch down low. So can you take a dribble, get closer to the basket, maybe force a foul, just shoot a shot that's a little more point blank? I think you'd like to see that. But overall, I mean, I thought Mark played well defensively enough on the perimeter. He didn't contest a lot of shots, but also like they were spreading him out, man. They wanted to make sure that they brought Mark Williams out on the 3-point line a lot more than just trying to beast him because they don't have a center to beast him. There is no Anthony Davis on this team anymore, as many have pointed out. And especially they remember where they were when they found out Anthony Davis wasn't on the team anymore. So was it a revenge game? I think it was more of a Hornets revenge game than it was a Mark Williams revenge game. Because if the Hornets are inclined to lose, to increase their odds to capture the flag, I don't think they wanted to lose this one. They played hard. The players are always going to play hard, but I don't think Charles Lee, you could have easily, if you wanted to, depending on what LaMelo thought. So you have to consider that. But you could have had an instance where you sit LaMelo, right? Like you could have sit Mark Williams if you wanted to and just ease him into the situation a little bit more so if you were so inclined to lose. They didn't want to lose this game. They wanted to beat the Lakers. After all the funny business goes on behind the scenes, they absolutely wanted to win this game. And speaking of that funny business, let's get to that because Mark Williams talked about that a little bit more in his sit down with Rod Boone on the Charlotte Observer. And also I want to talk about Nurkic's impact because I thought he gave the Hornets some great minutes, especially offensively as a facilitator. So still to come here on the Locked On Hornets podcast. Yeah, let's break down some more of this game. Let's talk about NSJ coming up with some big time 3-pointers. Nurkic passing out of the double team. JJ Redick, what are you doing? We'll get to some more of that and Mark Williams' comments on the other side of the break. I did want to tell you that we do have some more messaging from some of our partners here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We always appreciate them for helping us out here on Locked On Hornets. I'm pulling up some reads right now because we appreciate them so much, of course. This episode is brought to you by DoorDash. NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal that next day. There are plenty of perks with DoorDash. You get the game day feast after an epic 50-point performance. You can celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, burgers, any of that from your favorite spot, delivered straight to your door. Plus, they can fuel your watch party. If you're planning to catch the next big game, order your go-to snacks and meals at a discount and get ready for more high-scoring action. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When a player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off an order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. I know I am a happy customer of DoorDash, so I appreciate them. One more segment to go. Locked On Hornets. Man, a couple more thoughts on this win last night over the Lakers. We got to get to Nurk. So me and Doug talked about the backup center minutes. Who's going to get those? Clearly it was Nurkic. And Doug was a little hesitant to say that Musa was going to get any backup center minutes. I think he settled on about 15, but Musa didn't get any, right? I do wonder just how that plays out the rest of the way via resting Nurkic, resting Mark Williams, putting Musa out there, just how many minutes he'll get at backup center. I also wonder how that changes with the Hornets playing the Nuggets tonight. So are you playing Nurk 18? Do you rest Mark after playing 29 against the Lakers? Does he really play that much at all against Denver tonight? And then do you see a healthy dose of letting the Moose loose? Like, I feel like that's a possible scenario. But Nurk, man, what an interesting game. So here's Nurkic's stat line. Yusuf Nurkic. 0 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. He missed all 3 of his field goal attempts. All 3 of his field goal attempts were beyond the arc. Only had 1 turnover, had a couple of blocks, and then he capped it all off with 1 steal. It's the first guy to put up a stat line of 8 rebounds and 7 assists with 0 points in a game since DeJounte Murray did it in 2018. I mean, like in 18 minutes too. I think that's an underrated part of it. If you were, I mean, I guess that helps you get the 0 points, but the fact that you got 7 dimes and 8 rebounds was remarkable. The thing about it is the reason he got 7 assists, one is because absolutely he's making smart decisions. Like he's got the accuracy, he's got the power. He like knows how to hit the guy cross court with accuracy and knows the timing on that. So Nurk's passing was excellent, but it's because JJ Redick kept sending double teams at him. Like I was looking at Lakers Twitter last night too. They were frustrated with why are we sending 3 guys at Nurk for him to just pass it out? Man, Seth Curry was 1 pass away, and yet still he was wide open while everybody just gravitates towards Nurkic. Nurkic is, okay, you're going to give me Seth Curry wide open. Here you go, Seth. Go ahead and pop it. Boom, 3-pointer. Hornets have a successful possession. There was another play even before that. I think Seth Curry was maybe the second pass out of a double team or maybe third. But there was another one where they just, throw a body at Nurkic. He throws one. Like it wasn't the hardest pass in the world. It was a good one. But point being, it's like even the double teams aren't coming from a spot where you're forcing Nurkic to make this impossible cross court into the corner pass from the low post. It's like they were still relatively successful situations for Nurkic, and then of course delivered on that. So I'm not sure what the Lakers were doing. They stopped that. Like even when Nurk came in for that tiny stretch, like so Mark comes in the 4th in replacement of Nurkic. Then Nurkic comes back out there for Mark for like a 2-minute stretch, something like that. And then Mark comes back in. They go with DeQuan Jeffries a little bit too, by the way, which was interesting. But Mark eventually played some of the more meaningful minutes down the stretch in that 4th. But yeah, they stopped doubling Nurkic. It was like, yeah, this is stupid. It would be different if you were so worried about him posting his guy up and then just taking you to the rack. But he's not even doing that. He scored 0 points last night. So I do think the Lakers allowed him to be more impressive than what he would have been had they just like played him straight up. Who knows? Maybe he killed them in a past game or something. I don't even know. But delivered really well. Charles Lee talked about this before the game too, saying Mark's going to start. Nurkic is going to be the backup. And we're going to have to find some minutes for Musa. They did it tonight. I do think he'll play against Denver, especially with it being the second night of a back-to-back. But he also talked about just throwing 3 pitches, something we discussed on Locked On Hornets yesterday. So what you have is Mark Williams, your lob threat, hopefully an offensive rebound, trash points type of guy. You want more from Mark, who you hope to be your franchise center, but that's kind of what Mark is offensively right now. Nurkic can stretch the floor. I have a feeling we're probably going to get tired of the missed 3-pointers from Nurk. Like it's great to be able to stretch the floor, but if he's shooting 30%, 30% is 30% no matter how you slice it. So like we might get a little frustrated with that, but I still like having that in the arsenal. So you have that a part of the equation. And also just, I don't know if he's fighting, like he's not crashing in for rebounds. He is fighting though by just planting his foot down low and not being moved off of his block, which is great. And then you have Musa, who is the versatile, can guard more positions, feisty as hell out on the perimeter, moves his feet real well, just active, right? A Tasmanian devil. I like the 3 pitches that Charles Lee has and the way that he puts it at center. So shout out to Nurk, man. Great stuff from him, especially offensively. And then the last shout I'll say is reserved for Nick Smith Jr. Just some timely shots, 4 of 11 from 3. So it's not a great percentage, but hit a big one. Hit a really, really big 3-pointer that took some guts to take and make. And he had a couple of big ones actually in the second half. So I really like what we got from Nick Smith Jr. let's focus on some of these Mark Williams comments. I wonder if we even talk about them more so like towards the beginning of the show to get Doug's thoughts on them tomorrow. But Mark sits down with Rod Boone of the Charlotte Observer, and he talks about the whole experience. And here's what he says when he found out that the trade was being rescinded. He said, "My agent told me. I didn't think I had failed my physical. That didn't even cross my mind. The night I got traded, I played hella minutes," which is hilarious. "I didn't think in any world that was possible. Since I've been back since the start of the year, I've played games with a lot of minutes. I feel like every injury I've had has been well documented, and I've recovered and been 100% since. So I don't know what went into that decision. I think that's up to them. Balancing the emotions of the Lakers failing Williams despite him feeling otherwise about his health prognosis. Quite a mental chore is what Rod wrote." And then final quote from me about, from Mark, I should say. He says, "Yeah, there's not really much I can do. Like I said, I've been playing. You went from shocked to excited, back to shocked. You control what you can control." People saw this quote as outright confirmation on the Lakers getting cold feet. I don't know if this is the confirmation. I know that Hornets fans are pissed at the Lakers. I get it. I do think, as we've given credence to the idea the entire time, that the Lakers probably saw an out in the physical. Maybe there's something they didn't like, but they were privy to it. I mean, you could just decide that it's more important to you once you go through the physical, even if you were privy to that information prior to, giving Mark a physical, right? So they had an out. They had an escape hatch if they wanted it. I think my point is there's got to be some kind of finality on these trades, right? Like, if you have an issue with the way that the trade was rescinded, well, like there's got to be some kind of finality. Do you want the finality to be these players passing a physical before the moves go through? Because that's what it is right now. I think that's probably pretty logical. Do you want the finality to be a third party overruling what a team's doctor would say? Even if, like, what if that guy does get injured eventually and the team doctor is proven right? I mean, I imagine that team would be pretty mad at the NBA. So look, I think what the Lakers did was take advantage of the rules as they're constructed. And I can't tell you that I love it, especially with the way that they juggled Mark Williams' value all around, possibly dropping it on the floor. But like, the way to salvage it is if Mark plays. And he's playing. Sorry, I'm coughing all over the place. I can't mute it because I'm going solo. But the way to salvage it is if Mark plays. He played. I think he showed that he's ready. Like, I actually do think that he moved his feet a lot better than what we saw against the Bucks and some of these other games. So he needed some rest. I don't know what the rest schedule is going to be like for Mark, but he's back. And I know Mark was surprised. I was not surprised with any of these words or comments that I saw from Mark in the Charlotte Observer, but he's back. And I'm hoping that we can see a potential franchise center of the future. That'll do it for Locked On Hornets. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. That includes YouTube. I'm struggling mightily, to be honest with you. Doug's going to make fun of me about this, but we appreciate you making us your first listen. Again, we're free and available anywhere you get your podcast. Go check Doug out on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. Listen to me, Walker Mail, on WFNZ every weekday from 12 to 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your day. And I think me and Doug both will be back with you tomorrow.